Hey there, Pam Andrews, the Scholarship Shark. I just wanted to jump on and do a Facebook Live. This is a Facebook Live, a YouTube Live, as well as I'm using this as this week's podcast audio. I'm going to use it a lot because it deals with a timely topic. I've been getting some questions, and I just wanted to go ahead and share personally what our family is doing in the midst of the COVID-19, the coronavirus outbreak, and some advice that I've been sharing with families because a couple of my families have asked some questions as well. Before I get started, I wanted to share a few things. I posted this on my Facebook page and I pinned it to the top. And as I continue to get updates and notices of companies, I'm going to share those. So you'll be able to see that current list. So I just wanted to share 3 current companies who are offering help to families, college students during this time. Number one, U-Haul is offering free storage for 30 days to college students impacted by coronavirus related campus closures. So you just need to find a U-Haul truck in your area. You can go to uhaul.com and go ahead and rent that truck early and get your stuff out of the dorm and into storage. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So the second one is Frontier Airlines. They are actually offering free flights for college students impacted again by coronavirus, COVID-19. And then a broadband Wi-Fi company out in the Pacific, out west. I believe they're in Wisconsin, Charter Communications. And I'm hoping maybe our local cable company and other companies respond as well. But Charter Communications is offering free broadband and Wi-Fi access for 60 days to households with K-12 and or college students who do not already have a subscription. So just a few things. So I just wanted to jump in and just talk a little bit about the impact and really a mom's response, because I'm right there with you. And I wanted to share what it's been like this week in our household, especially for my graduating senior. Okay. So I am going to be sharing that. Okay, great. I want to make sure everybody could hear me. Okay. Share that, and we'll share some other tips as well. And again, this is gone. Of course, it's live right now. Facebook Live is live on YouTube Live. And then we're going to extract the audio and use it as our podcast episode. Podcast launches every Friday. It did not launch yesterday because I was busy booking flights. And I will explain all of that. Okay. Because my son has to leave campus. Crazy, right? So I'm going to talk about that. So I'm right there with you, mamas. It's crazy. It's emotional. It hurts. It's disappointing. It's not how I envisioned his senior year, totally not how I envisioned it, but it's going to be okay. We're going to all get through this. We're going to get through it together. And again, I just wanted to share some things from 4 different to 4 different audiences. So number one, for college students, particularly graduating seniors. I mean, if you've got time and you're going back to school in the fall, or you're a returning student, it's slightly different for you. But if you're a graduating senior and your campus is closing, much like my son's, we just got the email yesterday, classes are done on campus. You got to move out of your dorm. I'm going to talk about that. So college students, I'm going to talk about the class of 2020 graduating high school seniors, because I've got one of those too. What does that look like? Some decisions are still coming out. So my she applied regular decision to her schools. And so they've been sending notices out, kind of what that looks like. We're going to talk a little bit about accepted students day, college visits. These things aren't happening. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to then the next cohort or next group will be juniors, class of 2021, because I've got one of those as well. scheduled to take the SAT today, did not happen. Okay. All of this is as a result of COVID-19 with closures and testing centers closing, and how this impacts college planning. What does that look like for current college students, those about to graduate, and those in the college planning process? Then I will wrap up with this mama's response and just really some words of encouragement to other moms, other dads, just how we can support our students in this process, and how we can support other students who are part of our students' lives and a part of their community, their extended family. I'm finding it's the hardest hitting for the college community. This is just my own personal experience. I volunteer. I'm on the executive board for my son, Executive Parents Association, the executive board for the Parents Association for my son's college. So I'm very active volunteering. I'm in Florida a lot because of it. And I've really connected with a lot of the college students over the years. And it's really been hard. I mean, last night I was talking to a few of them, messaging a few. This is just really not how anyone has planned to spend their last few weeks, last few months. So we're going to talk about that. Okay. So I know that you've received a lot of messages, posts, blog posts, podcasts, and all that about coronavirus in the last few days, maybe even few weeks. This is not one of them. This comes from a really different perspective. It's really a mom's reaction to all of this and how we can support our students no matter where they are in either college or the college planning process, because it is impacting it, whether we realized it or not. At first, honestly, I was just kind of like, not in a lull, but I didn't really see the impact. I knew it would, but not at this level. And now I'm starting to feel it on a personal level and with my students, my clients, even with school closures. I have a client in Houston, Texas. They're he's out of school until the 31st, so it's just, all kinds of stuff going on. Right. So, I really want to get information out to share what I'm personally doing as well as what I'm recommending to my families. And again, I'm coming from two sides, the personal side and the professional side. So the personal side is I'm living this, having to make decisions in real time. And then on the personal side, I put my college admissions consultant hat on, and how I guide families through this. And honestly, on top of it, it was spring break this week. My son came home last Sunday, flew home Sunday, has a flight out for this Sunday. And, it was just spring break. And earlier in the week, as things begin to really shut down, I just did what I normally do during this time the month, which is go to Costco's to shop for my household. We're a family of 6 when everyone's home. And it was just insane, even at Costco's, just trying to shop, forget, trying to feed your family regular, and it's spring break week. And, you get a hungry young adult, you get hungry teenagers in the mix. You need food, right? And Costco was insane. So, on top of long lines at Costco's and me trying to coordinate flights and figure stuff out and talking to the moms of his roommates, classmates, roommates, all of that. It's just been a crazy busy week. So here are a few of the questions that I've been getting. What do I do about my high school student during this pandemic? What about testing? Today was the SAT test. Help, our campus is closing. What do I do? All of these are great questions. Again, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to first start with current college students, especially those who are graduating this year. Then I'm going to talk about high school students who are graduating and high school juniors after that. And then I'm going to wrap it up talking about moms. So what I want to say first, I just want to start with a word of encouragement. This is temporary. We're going to get through this together. This shall pass. But in the meantime, I don't want you to stop planning, whether it's planning for your future because your student is about to graduate from college and they've got some career planning to do, whether it's your high school student planning for their next step, college planning, This is not the time to kind of stop and become inactive. My seniors are still in scholarship mastery. We're doubling up because they've got time at home now. They're home because school is closed until the 31st. And so they're writing those essays. They're organizing their list of scholarships. So whatever you do, just don't stop doing what it was you were doing. It gets a little bit difficult because now we're layering some of this emergency activity on top of our normal activity. That's what I'm finding. On top of having my son home for spring break, on top of having to shop at Costco's because I just needed stuff because everybody's at home. It's now, going into a quick reactive mode to pack him, get him off campus, and figure out the next steps before graduation, if there's even a ceremony at this point. So we're still waiting to hear from his campus about that. Okay. So, I just wanted to encourage your student to continue working on college planning. And if you're a high school or if you're a college senior, continue to work on career planning. It's going to be a little bit different. Okay. So here's, and I've got like tons of notes here, right? So for our current college students, many colleges have closed their in-person classes. They're trying to, thin out the student body population, just maybe faculty, certain staff workers, maybe a few international students who cannot get home, but they're doing online classes. They're making that shift. And it started with Washington State, and it just includes a whole list. I'm going to include a link in the videos as well as the podcast show notes with a summary of just the schools. I have a list of over 200 so far. And the thing about the list, when I scroll through it, my son's college is not even listed on there. So I know there are so many more schools listed. And that's just to kind of show you the breadth of this, which is why I'm sharing it, because maybe you're on the peripheral. Maybe you're the neighbor or the friend or the coworker of a person who with a kid in college, and you can be a support or resource or a shoulder, So I share that list again, so you can just see how big this is for our college students. As of Tuesday, more than 500,000 students were affected by college cancellations, by school closures. That's a lot of students. Okay. And the trickle down effect is incredible because for some students, it impacts all kinds of things, their housing and, for some, the meals and food security. And I mean, it can just go on and on and on. In addition to graduating and meeting your graduation requirements, having something as simple as having access to Wi-Fi or broadband in your home. Not everybody has that. So campus for some students is really a safe place. It's a place where they not only learn and grow, but it's a place where they're nurtured and they're supported. And so many students may not have that at home. So I want those of you who know a student to just reach out to that student and just check in on them. Okay. Because this is really hard. It's really, really hard for them right now. Okay. So for our current college students, many colleges have either totally canceled classes, and for the rest of the school year, into March or May, I'm sorry. So for the rest of the school year, some have just extended spring break. And so, my son's spring break was this week and actually was scheduled to end tomorrow, and they extended it. And then we got the notice yesterday that school is now closed and it will go online, and stay tuned for what that looks like. So it's all over the place. There are different iterations. It just kind of looks very different depending upon your campus. With that in mind, although I'm going to provide a link, and I have the name of the person, Brian Alexander. He is an education technology specialist at Georgetown University, and he has been leading an effort to track coronavirus-related higher education closures. So shout out to him for taking the time to compile this data. I'm going to share that, because maybe you'll go through the list and you'll say, oh, so-and-so's daughter goes there. I remember going to her graduation party and talking about her going to this school. Let me just reach out and see how she's doing and how I can support her. So I'll share that. But always go to your school's website, check your school email, use that primary source to get the most recent, up-to-date information, changes, your next steps. That's you want to go to your primary source, okay? So that's really important because again, every campus is different and I'm finding it's changing often, okay? So that's current college students. So I'll just share a little bit about what my son's school did. So he came home last Sunday, spring break, and was told probably around Monday or Tuesday that they were going to extend spring break by a week because of the outbreak. And in his area, there was one known case, and that person had gone to the hospital, was being treated, and they were okay. I haven't followed recently how many more at the time. And to keep an eye out in our email on Friday for updates. So by Wednesday, we got another email saying that they were going to extend the break. So I had not booked his ticket yet because I thought his return flight, I always do 2 one ways. So this is a mom tip. When he comes home for breaks, I find it's easier to do 2 separate one ways, and it's easier to change or cancel or just totally scrap it in some cases instead of paying a change fee, instead of paying the difference. So we had done 2 one-way tickets for him to come home, which were much cheaper. And I'm so glad I did it that way because it's made the travel part much easier. It's a 16-hour drive, 18 hours. It's about an 18-hour drive. 16 without traffic, but it typically takes us 18 hours. And it's about a 2 and some hour, almost 3 hour. It's about a 3-hour flight. I think that's about right. Maybe 2.5. And so having to respond the way our campus is requiring us to respond requires a flight. And having booked the one way has been a blessing. I didn't realize, when we did it just to bring him home, this was pre-coronavirus campus closures. It worked out really well. So, so what his campus has done, so they did that. And then yesterday, Friday, and we knew it was coming. He got the email. They told him to keep an eye out. And what they decided was that they would close campus because they're really not able to quarantine and guarantee quarantines. And then, really how to keep the students safe. And again, every campus is very different. That's the hard part. But they made the decision to close. And so, so when we thought, okay, now you're not going back a week later, we get the email they gave us by this particular date that, which is soon, like 8 days away, 7 days, I think now, you need to be out of housing, packed up, turn in your dorm key, everything. So that was really hard managing the emotion of it. My son was kind of chill, but for me, it was really hard. Because I'm there, I'm active, I participate. I get to know a lot of the students, I know a lot of the parents, and it's just not what I envisioned for his last few months of his senior year of college. This is really not how I pictured it ending. So I'm learning to manage my expectations so that I can help him navigate through this process and then reach out to other students as well. So it's just adjusting that expectation. So I just wanted to share some practical tips. Again, so I've got my mama hat on, my personal hat, walking this thing out, and then my professional hat. So I just wanted to share a few tips. If you have a college student who has to leave campus immediately within the next few days, and I'm going to talk a little bit about study abroad because I have a client who is out of the country or was out of the country and what that looked like for her, slightly different. But what to do if you are kind of dealing with this and some things to think about that you may not have thought about that I want to share. I'm going to put my professional hat on, my college admissions consultant hat on to kind of give you some things to think about as well. So what campuses, most of them are doing, it depends on the school, but most of them are prorating room and board. Okay. So we got the email that they're going to prorate the room and board and issue a refund for the for the rest of the school year because he's no longer living on campus. They're no longer eating and all that. What I want to do, I want to warn students that if you borrow that money to spend it wisely, Make sure you're using it for true housing, true meals. And if you're living at home, you most likely won't need it. Okay. So you may begin to think repayment, begin to put that money back in, because especially if it's borrowed. Now, if it's, subsidized, then the interest is being paid. But if it's unsubsidized or Parent Plus, I don't want you to just think it's free money. That they're just giving you. This is, if you've borrowed the money, you will need to remember to repay it. So that's the number one thing I really want to warn students and remind them that, again, if it's borrowed money, that prorated money will be paid back. And if you do need to spend it, not every student can go home. Some students have to live other places, maybe with relatives or friends, or maybe on their own, but to spend wisely. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is enroll in your school's direct deposit. Now, many of the schools have direct deposits for overpayment and for refunds. And typically, most students don't think to enroll. You have to enroll. Otherwise, you're going to get cut a paper check. Now, the reason why you want to enroll in a direct deposit is if they're issuing direct deposits, which makes it much easier for them when they're prorating your room and board, you're going to get that a lot quicker than your paper check. And you don't know what address that paper check is going to go to. It will go to your home address, but if you're staying somewhere else and you're trying to figure it out, or maybe you've already landed a job or an internship before work or whatever, you want to be able to get that money in your account so you can use it quicker right away for your living expenses. So go online to your college. You can check, you can maybe do a Google search. It should be under financial aid, or in the little magnifying glass, search for overpayment, refund, type in like tuition refund, to see, direct deposit, to see what your school's policy is. And typically you just click the link and there's a form where you do it. Sometimes you put your phone number in because it'll verify your enrollment in direct deposit. But please, if your school offers direct deposit and they are prorating room and board, go ahead and do that now. You want to get set up in the system now so that it's done. Okay. So that's number one. If your school is closing and you're doing online classes, no more room and board, and they're prorating it, then go ahead and get direct deposit set up if you have not done that. Number two, students continue to check your emails for campus news, as well as I know some campuses are still even working with recruiters electronically. So they're not just doing the academic piece, but they're doing that career services piece that supports students as well. And for our seniors who are graduating, very important, very critical, because they've gone the distance and they're about to cross the finish line and land that job. And a lot of us really lean on those career services and the supports, depending upon your school. I know my son's campus has a great career services department. And so it's important that they maintain contact and they're constantly looking, because some schools are getting creative in different departments and how they're supporting students in some of the auxiliary services. Okay. So make sure your student is checking their email for any campus news, and for our seniors for any college and recruiting news. Again, it's easy to get overwhelmed with packing, because this is where I am. My son flies out tomorrow and I fly out the day after that. We couldn't even get on the same flight because I've got to help him pack up and move it and get it all out, right? But at the same time, when we kind of come back and regroup, it's getting back into that routine that he was in on campus so that he can continue on to his next step. Number three, make sure you forward your campus mail. So if you're having physical mail sent, care packages or letters or whatever, make sure you forward the mail from your campus mailbox to your house or wherever it is you're staying. So check it one last time as you show up on campus. If you've gone away maybe for spring break, or if you're there, make sure you check it one last time, but forward your mail to wherever you're going to be, so that you get whatever mail you need as a student. And then my next question really deals with, and this was a big one that I've been asked a couple times, and it's about federal work study. So and this is when I say I the student, so if I am not working, will I get my federal work study? Okay. So for many students, because you've paid your tuition, you're not getting a refund on tuition. Classes will happen online. They're going to happen remotely. They're going to figure that out. And a lot of them are still working that out because they just don't have the infrastructure for online courses. Not every campus offers MOOCs or online classes. So a lot of them have to build that quickly, which is why they've extended some of that time. But your tuition, you're probably not, you're not getting that back. Okay. And so you still have that expense that, you've paid or will be paying. And so for some students, if you check that box off on your FAFSA, you've, did all the right things to land a job on campus, and, you've been working on campus in federal work study. I had a couple students saying, Miss Pam, what do I do about work study? I need my work study money. Good news. Yes, you will continue to receive federal work study if you've already been working. Okay, so you'll continue to get that. I will also add this link, and this is the federal provision, the federal guideline that speaks to schools schools making those payments to students for their federal work study. So you may have to follow up. However you were getting paid, if it were direct deposit, if your check were mailed, however that happened, you may have to do some follow-up on your end. But let me just read it. Federal law includes a provision allowing an institution to make federal work study payments under certain limited circumstances, and this qualifies, to disaster-affected students who are unable to continue working. Because your campus is closing, you're unable to continue working. For students enrolled in performing federal work study at a campus that must close due to COVID-19, or for a federal work study student who is employed by an employer. So that's why you have a job on campus or job off campus, an employer that closes as a result of COVID-19, the institution may continue paying the student federal work study wages during that closure if it occurred after the beginning of the term, which this did occur after the term. Okay. So this is March. I'm sure by now most terms have started, whether it was like January or mid-January, most students are in their term. Okay. So yes, you should still continue to get your federal work study money. Follow up with your school to confirm, make sure that they are still going to process your federal work study money. But there's provision, and I'm going to include this link so that you have it if you need to quote it. Okay. Number 5, moving your stuff or storing your stuff. So moving it if you're graduating, storing it if you're coming back in the fall, right? So again, U-Haul is offering 30 days of free storage to students displaced by the coronavirus outbreak. What we've done in the past, because we're, where my son goes to school and where we live, it's really far away. We always went in with another family or two for storage. So he would always wash his bedding. We put it in like the big giant baggy things or totes, and we would just simply share storage. So for us, because of the distance, having a storage space was never a big deal, which is why I really like what U-Haul is doing, where they're offering at least a free 30-day storage. And this is while it's available. So I would encourage you to jump on this sooner rather than later. So try to find another family to go in with you. I mean, those units, it depends. We always got like the lower ones where it was like one on the bottom, one on top, but some of them are very tall. So you can go in with some roommates, some suite mates, some other folks on your floor, maybe in your major. They can coordinate that if they've never done that before. And say, hey, let's go in on a unit together. It just makes it easier for some of those things that they're going to need next year if they're returning students, such as bedding and towels and maybe seasonal clothing. If you go to a school where the weather is different from where you live, so you can leave some of that stuff behind. Okay. That's that. And then finally, for my college students, flights. So I want to say 2 things about flights. I'm finding that flights are much cheaper now. That's been a good thing. That's been a blessing. I keep a gratitude journal where I try to reflect on something I'm grateful for every day. And that was like my hashtag gratitude, was the fact that flights were much more like lower priced than normal. So I booked our flights. He actually is flying out tomorrow because he was scheduled to fly out tomorrow anyway, before the extended break. And then I booked my flight. And then the second thing I want to say to a flight, with Frontier, and that's actually the airline he's flying on. They have a nonstop flight, which worked out really well. And I declare, I've never seen that flight before. I feel like they just kind of added it, which was great. But they're now offering, and I have this on my Facebook page, and I'll include the link and everything. But they are offering, Frontier Airlines is offering free flights to students who are impacted by the coronavirus outbreak. It's extremely generous of this airline to do this, because for many students, they just don't have disposable income we're talking 2 flights if you've been away maybe for spring break, to now all of a sudden fly to campus to pack up and then fly home or fly wherever you're going. So take advantage of that if that works in your area. By all means, take advantage. Even if you have to fly one place and get it, put you a little bit closer, and then you get a flight even, a little bit closer to where you need to be, you could maybe figure it out and make it work. Again, so those are just 6 things for current college students to focus on. My high school students, I'm going to start with high school seniors. So if you're in the class of 2020, couple of things. Many of the regular decisions have not come out yet. They're still coming out. And this is what I'm finding. I've talked to a couple of places, as well as even the ones where my daughter applied. She got some emails saying that decisions are still coming out by, a particular date. So I'm finding that admissions staff are still working. So they're still working. They're still, doing all the work required with the applications, and they're getting those things out the door. So there may be a delay, may not. We'll kind of have to see if if those are still trickling in about the time that they said they would. But most fall admissions decisions are still, for this current school year, those decisions are still coming in as planned, because the admission staff, they're still working. Okay. So you should still see them. I know one of the schools, my daughter received an email a couple weeks ago saying, keep an eye out the week of March 16th. So we'll see if they still say something next week, or if it's slightly delayed because of everything that's going on. Okay. So that doesn't seem to be too impacted. The second thing for high school seniors is make sure you stay on top of your admissions deadlines. Okay. So just because things are kind of happening at the universities where students are leaving, that does not take away from the fact that you need to stay on top of any deadlines, scholarship deadlines, housing deposit deadlines, getting your roommate and all that, and securing your spot. Don't let your deadlines lapse because of, campuses closing, because typically they're just closing in terms of having a very dense student body. So having a lot of students there and teaching, but a lot of the administrative staff, they're still there. They're still working. And so it's important that you don't slip when it comes to those deadlines. Okay. All right. And then the third thing for high school seniors, so for the class of 2020, this is another thing that's really been impacted, and that is the accepted or admitted students days. So a lot of the schools have canceled or postponed admitted student days. And that's typically like the day or the weekend where you get to go, you visit the campus, it's like a little fair where there are different booths like career services, alumni, support services, all kinds of things, student activities, residence life, all kinds of things. And those are really fun weekends because it's a great way to see the school now that you've been accepted and, you've been admitted to that school, and whether or not you're trying to make that final decision. Those are very critical weekends because for some students, it's again, stepping foot on campus with a fresh pair of eyes, because often when you're doing the planning as a junior, maybe a sophomore, junior, at the beginning of your senior year, you're looking at it, one way, and then you get that acceptance and you're looking at your offer. So now you're thinking about it in a different way. So those are very important dates that I always tell students to put on your calendar, attend if you can attend. But this year, most of them are not happening. I have yet to find one that's happening, which is why I'm saying most. There could be one that's happening. I just don't know about it, but I'm finding many of them have been canceled altogether or postponed until an indefinite time later in the summer. Okay. So high school seniors, keep an eye out in your email to make sure that, you're staying on top of those dates for any accepted students day, those kinds of on-campus activities. Because right now they're not happening. They typically happen like March, April. They're not happening. Okay. So for my high school juniors, this is what, and let me see if there are any questions. Oh, great. Hi. Great. Yep. Okay. Awesome. Okay, good. So I was going to see if I had any questions. All right, cool. So, for high school juniors, hi, Monica. So for high school juniors, um, so for high school juniors, this is what you can do. All righty. Because today, Saturday, March the 14th, was the SAT. For some test centers, that test did not happen. And I know that this time of the year is critical for juniors in that they are juniors that are really college bound and really planning and thinking ahead. They're taking their test now if they haven't taken it again, or maybe taking it to bump the score. And so now, for some students, this test didn't happen. It didn't happen for my son today. He got to sleep in a little bit and he was like, okay with that. But, but you need to do one of two things. It's either going to be rescheduled or you're going to look ahead to a March or June test date. And then we have those dates, or I'm sorry, May or June. So either May 2nd or June 6th test date to, again, plan to take those tests so that you're not trying to take them early in the fall for your rising senior. Okay. Okay, so that's number one. So that was the SAT today. If your student could not take the SAT today because that test center was closed due to COVID-19, due to the coronavirus outbreak, then one of two things will happen. They will either reschedule, or your student will be able to, you will be able to apply that payment to a future test date. And the next two test dates are May 2nd and June 6th. Alrighty. Now, also with my high school juniors, spring break. That's typically the time of year when families do college visits. Well, that's not going to happen this year. Okay. You're not going to have on-campus college visits. Many schools, again, are closing. They're canceling their visits, campus tours. They're just not going to happen. But there's one really good way around that so that students can continue with college planning, as well as get a feel for the campus and do some of that preliminary work. And that is with a virtual visit. So next week, and I'm going to do it next Wednesday, Thursday, and you'll see a post. I'll post on Facebook. I'm going to do some sessions, excuse me, just really walking students through how to do a virtual visit. I put together just an amazing little mini masterclass, and it's for students because most of them are going to be home, honestly. So you'll see that registration link. I'll also include it if you're viewing this or watching this or getting this content through the podcast. I'll have that link in the show notes. But if you have a high school junior and maybe even a sophomore and they're home, because a lot of high schools are closing for maybe the next 2 weeks, go ahead and have them hop in. It's no cost. I'm going to walk them through what a virtual visit is, some top 3 companies on how to do it, some of the differences, comparisons, what to look for. We're going to do like virtual tours, some stops along the way. So it's going to be a really great offering for students. And even if your student is not able to attend live, because some schools are live streaming their classes. So if they have a class at that time, they should still register, because then they'll get the replay and they can still get the content. So I want to make sure they're still moving along, because again, we're going to get through this. We're going to get on the other side of this coronavirus. And you want to make sure that you're planning and doing all the things that need to happen now, so that when we get on the other side of this, you did the best that you could do given the circumstances. Okay. So no spring breaks, or during spring break, no college visits, but your high school junior, your high school sophomore can join me on my mini classes on conducting virtual visits. I've got a couple of worksheets. I'm going to share my screen. It's going to be really good, very hands-on. And again, it's right on their laptop. They can log in, do it with me. If they can join live, that's great. That way, if they have any questions, I'm there to help them. Alrighty. That's going to be next Wednesday because, again, I'm out of here Monday and Tuesday. I've got a dorm to pack up because my son's got to get off campus. So I fly out Monday, help him. It's going to be a whirlwind, pack it up, clean up the dorm, and I'm out. So I would love to do that Monday, but it's going to have to be Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. Alrighty. And then let me see. So that's for our juniors and sophomores. I'm like all over the place with these grades, right? Okay. I will include a link also with the College Board and with the College Board's response to what to do if your test center closed due to coronavirus, what you can expect. So you'll have that link as well, walking you through how you should handle it. Okay. And now, so finally, before going into what you can do as a mom, I just really want to remind my current college students, my seniors, don't stop planning your next steps. Okay. Again, we're going to get on the other side of this. We're going to get through this. Your career focus, that's your next step. So whatever you need to do, if there's a local resource in your community, take advantage of that, whether it's technology, whether it's whatever it is, a person, reach out to your LinkedIn contacts, don't stop planning your future, even though you're not on campus to do that. So do that. And then for high school students, continue planning your next step, which will be for college-bound high school students, your college steps. And again, this is the time for testing, the time for college campus visits, and you can keep those processes moving along. You can keep studying, you can keep preparing for that. All right. Finally, I wanted to talk about moms, what can we do during this time? So the big thing I'm learning was really to manage my emotions. When it hit me yesterday, it really hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, school's closed? How does that happen? Because I feel like we've survived. He goes to school in Florida. We've survived like a hurricane every year, only to now have this happen. Like, really? And so I felt like we almost made it on the other side. And then this happens and it's like, whoa, what do you mean campus is closing? And because of his school, he goes to an art school. My undergraduate degree is in engineering. So, honestly, if my school had closed, I would have been like, A-okay. I'd been like, okay, I'm good. And, whatever grade I had, just give it to me. I'm done. But with art, it's their thesis, their final project, whatever they've designed, their final film, their demo reel, their animated short. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that last bit of their senior year that's so critical for their next step, because that's the body of work, that their original body of work that they create, that they show their prospective employer what they can do. And for film, it's what gets submitted to film festivals. And there are a lot of film festivals coming up. So it's really hard. And it's, just talking to students, texting students, it's been very emotional for a lot of them to go through this. So moms, the best we can manage our emotions, have someone to talk to. What I'm finding, I was talking to a friend of mine whose daughter attends an online school, and I found that she just really couldn't connect, to really what I was feeling. And so I really find that my people are, again, moms also, like my son's roommate's mom. She and I talked yesterday, as well as other moms. And if there's a Facebook group for like a parents association Facebook group, a community that you can be a part of that will get it, because that residential experience really is very different than the at-home online experience. Two very different things. And especially when it ends abruptly, it's very difficult. And so find your people, again, whether it's reaching out to a roommate's mom or your larger campus community, or, if you're in another support group or Facebook group, not support group, I feel like we need a support group, right? But another group of parents who understand and can provide tips and little things like the U-Haul truck and whatever it is to help students through this process. Really important. I think the hard part, and I just kind of wrote down a few words, which made it, I was thinking like, why is this so hard? Well, for one, for me anyway, it's just that feeling of not being in control, number one, and it's not what I expected. So what my son and I did, we just sat down yesterday and we talked about all the blessings, even though it's not what we planned. We did not plan for him to be home. Our plan, honestly, was we would go to graduation. He's been apartment hunting. He's been interviewing in a particular region. And we literally thought we're going to drive you from campus to there and get you set up and you're off to your next big adventure. So it's kind of a little detour. It's a pit stop. You come home and that's okay. So we just talked about, what are we grateful for? Well, you get to be with your siblings again. You get to, I get to be here to support you with some of your career planning and we get to see you and spend, the last 2 months before you go off and live your life independently in this new stage. We get to do that together. So for me, we just begin to talk about and write down some of the blessings and the benefits in this thing that's totally out of our control. You may have heard the expression that, you can't control what happens to you. You can only control how you react, your reaction to what happens. So that's what I had to focus on. Another thing, for moms too, I find that for me, I tend to be the shock absorber. So I kind of take in the emotion and absorb it. So it hits me the hardest first, and then it goes out from there. It kind of, like the Doppler effect, boom, boom, boom. It gets a little bit slower as it goes further out. And so again, having support and talking to another mom who's right there with you, who feels the corona crazies with you and what it's like on your college campus, and where you can kind of vent the frustration, but then say, okay, so what are we going to do next? And how are we going to move through it? That's been, yes, she's so right. Thank you. So true. The emotions, all the feels. But how are we going to support our kids and move on to that next step? I think the other hard part for me too, I think it might've been a little bit easier. So here's the thing. My son goes to school. I'm in the Northeast, so we deal with a lot of snow and freezing rain and ice. So we get the 4 seasons. He's in a location where there are a lot of hurricanes in the fall. But the thing about a hurricane is you kind of know when it's coming, and the campus tracks it. Campus safety, they're tracking it when it's going to make landfall, and you plan for it. You either go up to the next state, up to Georgia, or a little further up Florida, or you kind of go in, to the east a bit, or wherever you decide where you're going to go. And then you go back. It blows through, it does what it's going to do. And then, maybe in a week or so, campus is closed. This one, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on worldwide. There are new cases popping up in places where it didn't exist a week ago, a day ago. So we really don't know. And so having it happen where it's not something we can predict the ending is difficult, because now all of a sudden those relationships that they've built for 4 years, they're all of a sudden, I don't say ending, but it's a major pivot. It's a big shift. And so just finding ways to make sure they stay connected. He was on his phone just talking to his buddies, and they were just kind of naturally talking about whatever it is they talk about anyway, but just encouraging that, making sure they stay connected, because again, they're all in it together. They understand what it feels like, and they're all moving on to those next steps together. So so that's pretty much it. So I just wanted to come on, talk about, moms with college kids, whether it's college bound high school students, current college seniors, current college underclassmen, what we can do, how we can respond to this coronavirus outbreak, when it comes to our kids and when it comes to ourselves, and building that support and that network. I want to say two final things. Again, mamas, find your people, find some support, talk to another mom, just to kind of get you through this. I'm finding that it's been helpful for me. So that's one thing. But then number 2, for people, if your kid is not in college and you're noticing someone's coming back home, maybe you see them pulling up, in the driveway in the minivan with all this stuff on top of the car, or the U-Haul, or you see them in church, or you see them working where they used to work every summer, and you're like, oh, you're home. It's kind of early. Check in on them, please. Please check in on our students, because it's really hard for them. I'm finding these students really care. They really care about the quality of work they produce. They care about their experience. They love their school. And leaving is really hard for them. So check on our graduating seniors as they come home. I had to write this down because I didn't want to miss any of it. As they come home to our neighborhoods, to our workplaces, if you see them, to our churches, our places of worship, please check on them. Just check on them. It's so important to make sure they're okay and they're supported during these uncertain times and this time of slight transition. And encourage them to look forward facing, to their future, their next steps. And maybe by them coming home, you can connect them to maybe an employer or get a jump start on a summer experience. I will share this before I end. I told my son, I said, with online, you're going to have some extra time. You're going to be able to manage your time a little bit differently. And that's going to allow you to do, that's going to allow you to not only jumpstart your career search to kick it up a notch, but you might be able to do some freelance work or pick up a part-time job with a local design group to, again, build your portfolio and make some money. So it's reframing the circumstance and really thinking, what's the good that I can extract from this? So, hi, Karen. So, hey, Karen. So again, thank you for joining me. I just wanted to jump on, provide a different perspective. It's just been quite intense for our college students. And again, I just want to make sure they're supported. And I just want to make sure you're supported as parents. And then those who support, who are, on the outside, kind of looking in, understanding what it's like for our kids right now, so that you can step in and come alongside them and help them. All right. Thank you for joining. Bye.